Well, everyone, the market's been a bit jumpy lately, hasn't it? Tariffs are back in the news,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the S&P 500, it just had its worst day of the year. So, I bet a lot of you are a little on edge about your investments.
Oh yeah, for sure. This kind of volatility, especially when it's tied to these policy shifts, like like these new tariffs, it can definitely make even those really experienced investors a little nervous.
Right, exactly. And so that's why today we're going to take a closer look at how one company in particular is handling this turbulent market, and that is Toyota Motor, ticker symbol TM.
Yeah, Toyota's a really fascinating case right now because they're this global company that's like deeply tied to the U.S. economy,
Yeah.
and they're also doing some really interesting things, especially when it comes to electric vehicles.
Okay, so before we dive into Toyota specifically, let's just sort of set the stage here. The market took a pretty sharp downturn. Just to recap, the S&P 500 closed down 1.76% at 5,849.722.
And it wasn't just the S&P, the Dow Jones Industrial Average that dropped too. It ended at 43,191.24, down 1.48%.
Yeah, ouch. And the Nasdaq Composite, the one below all the tech companies, that one really got hit hard, falling 2.64% to close at 18,350.18.
A lot of this is because of President Trump's announcement, about putting a 25% tariff on goods from Mexico and Canada, and then also raising the tariffs on Chinese imports by 10%.
Now, I know the word tariffs gets thrown around a lot, but for anyone listening who might not be totally clear on what that means, can you sort of break it down? Like, why are investors so worried about these tariffs?
Sure. So tariffs are basically like taxes on imported goods. So that means businesses that need to import those goods now have to pay more for them, and that can really affect their bottom line,
Right.
their profit.
And that kind of like trickles down to the rest of the economy, right?
Right.
If the companies aren't making as much money, then that slows down the entire economy.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also this big concern that these tariffs could start a trade war. Like, what if other countries retaliate and start putting their own tariffs in place? Then global trade gets messed up and nobody wins.
Okay, so with all of that in mind, let's look at how Toyota's doing. As of March 4th, PM closed as $183.77. That's down from its February high of $196.74, but it's still quite a bit higher than its February low of $177.11.
Interesting, right? Because Toyota's stock price, it's definitely gone down with the rest of the market, but it hasn't completely tanked like some others have. So that might mean that investors, that they see some strength in the company, some potential.
Now, to give a little bit more context, TM is down 5.6% since the beginning of the year, and it's down even further from its one-year high of $255.23.
Yeah, that shows that Toyota is facing challenges, just like a lot of other companies are. But the fact that it's not in free fall, that could be a sign that investors, that they're seeing some resilience there, maybe because of some of the decisions they've been making, strategically.
Okay, so let's dig into those strategic decisions.
Yeah.
One of the most exciting things happening at Toyota right now is this big push they're making into electric vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
In February, their total U.S. sales, those were down 4.9% year over year.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Within that decline, there's this bright spot. EV sales, those actually went up, surged by 33.6% and reached 91,468 units. That's huge.
Yeah, and this isn't just, some passing trend. The demand for electric vehicles and just sustainable transportation in general, it's really growing like all over the world.
Oh, absolutely. And the sales data, it really shows that Toyota is that they're taking advantage of this trend, right? They're not just sitting around and watching. They're actively changing their strategy so that they can be a real player in the EV market.
And it seems to be working for them.
Mm.
Do you remember back on February 5th, Toyota increased their profit forecast for the year by 9%, and their stock price had jumped 4.8% that day?
Yeah, that increase in the profit forecast, that was a big statement. It means that Toyota is like confident that they can not only get through the current economic issues, but that they can actually do really well despite the challenges with tariffs and all that.
So we've got EV growth, strong profits. It's looking pretty good for Toyota, right? But didn't we say that tariffs could kind of mess things up?
We did, yeah, and that's where things get really interesting. Tariffs mean higher costs for companies like Toyota, and that could definitely impact their profitability in the long run.
And how is Toyota, with all their global operations, How are they prepared to deal with this?
That's a great question. Let's think about their global footprint for a minute. They've got manufacturing plants all over the world, including in Mexico and Canada, which are, directly affected by these new tariffs. So how's that going to affect how they work? And do they have any advantages over, over their competition?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what are other car companies doing? Are they as prepared as Toyota is? I feel like that's a pretty important question for investors.
It is.
Yeah.
Toyota's not, they're not the only ones in the game. There are lots of other car companies that are making big investments in EVs, and trying to figure out all this stuff with the global economy and everything.
It's kind of like checking out the competition before you decide where you want to put your money.
Well,
Do you have any thoughts on like who's doing a really good job and who's maybe falling behind?
it's definitely a changing landscape. Some companies like Tesla, they've been all about EVs for a while now, so they're way ahead when it comes to market share and technology and stuff.
And then there are others like Volkswagen who are really trying to catch up, right? Like they've got these big plans to make their whole lineup electric.
Right, exactly. It's a race to the future. So what should people be looking for when they're comparing these different companies? Like, what are some of the things that might show, who's really ahead of the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. What are like the key things to watch out for?
Well, there are a few things. One is their commitment to, research and development. Are they putting money into developing new battery technology, or autonomous driving and other innovations like that? Another is their manufacturing capacity. Can they actually make enough cars, to meet the demand? Because the demand for EVs is growing really fast.
Right? It's not just about making cool cars anymore. It's about, having everything in place to actually get them to the people who want to buy them.
Exactly. And then there's the whole thing about, brand perception and consumer trust. Are they building a reputation for reliability and quality when it comes to EVs? Are they doing a good job of communicating their vision for the future, a sustainable future? Because that's important to a lot of people these days.
It's really interesting to see how all of this is playing out. It feels like we're at this turning point in the car industry.
We are, yeah. And it's an exciting time to be an investor because you have the chance to be a part of this big change.
Yes, so much of investing is about trying to predict the future,
Mhm.
right? And right now it seems like the future of transportation is definitely electric.
Absolutely. And as we've been talking about today, Toyota is definitely a company to keep an eye on as all of this, as this electric future starts to happen.
I totally agree. They're making some big moves to set themselves up for success. And even though there are definitely some challenges out there, their recent performance shows that they're probably on the right track.
And that's really the main thing for listeners to remember. Investing isn't just about, following the latest trends. It's about understanding how things work, understanding the risks and making smart decisions based on research.
Yeah, that's such an important reminder, especially now when the market's been so up and down. It's easy to get caught up in all the fear or the excitement, but it's so important to step back and look at the big picture,
Yeah.
and to really understand the companies that you're putting your money into.
Exactly. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about the companies, the industries, and everything that's happening in the world, the better you'll be able to handle the market, all the ups and downs, and make good decisions about your investments.
And that's what we're all about here, right? We want to help you make sense of everything, cut through all the noise, and become a more confident, and informed investor.
Yeah. So whether you've been doing this for years or you're just getting started, we hope these conversations, that they give you some good insights and perspectives.
And we always love to hear from you. So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show, share it with your friends who might also like it, and leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about Toyota's future or any other company that you'd like us to talk about.
Yeah, we're all learning together in this crazy world of investing.
And your questions and your thoughts, they help us all make better decisions.
Absolutely. So stay curious, keep those questions coming, and as always, Never stop learning.
That's a great motto.
Yeah.
And on that note, thanks for tuning in to Investing Talk podcast. We'll see you next time for another look at the market.
Exactly. And, your questions and your insights, it really do help us all, help us all make better decisions.
Oh, for sure. So yeah, stay curious, keep those questions coming, and never stop learning, right?
That's great advice. And on that note, thanks everyone for tuning in to Investing Talk podcast. We'll see you next time for another look at the market.